Welcome to Techlandia, a podcast about and for the technology industry, a place to learn, connect, and engage with leaders and thinkers involved in the technology industry. You can check us out at techoregon.org, Apple, Spotify, or wherever you listen. Thank you for listening and enjoy the show.
Welcome to the latest session of the Techlandia podcast series. My name is Vic Newberry, President and CEO of Tao. And with us, we're pleased to have with us this morning as our guest, Courtney Lee with AWS. Courtney, thanks for joining us.
Hi, Skip. Thanks for having me. It's great to be here.
Awesome. Well, I thought we would get into a little bit of background first on you. We always like to ask our guests a little bit about their own personal professional journeys, and then we can get into kind of the questions on the topic at hand. But love to hear a little bit about your background and how you ended up at AWS.
Yeah, I graduated from Portland State University nearly a decade ago, and I really wanted to get into politics. I was a poli-sci major, but I had no idea what I wanted to do with politics. And I ended up finding my way into Senator Burdick's office and interned with her, and then ended up moving into a campaign role where we ran a state Senate campaign out in Hillsborough. And then I kind of crossed paths with a lobby firm in Portland and really just found my groove. I worked there for about 7 years, and AWS was a client of ours, and I really enjoyed the cloud computing, IT modernization issues that they were working on. And so I just transitioned over to AWS and have been here almost 4 years, and it's been a great experience. Always learning something new.
Excellent. So for those who might not know, I was wondering if you could take a little bit of time to explain the difference between Amazon and Amazon Web Services.
I get this question a lot. AWS is the cloud computing arm of Amazon, launched back in 2006, and is the world's most comprehensive and broadly adopted cloud. Back in the early days when operating Amazon.com, the business experienced firsthand how hard and expensive it was to manage IT infrastructure. So in the spring of 2006, we launched AWS to totally rethink IT infrastructure completely and democratize access to technology to remove barriers for customers so that they can innovate and build their technology on AWS cloud. As the world takes advantage of more cloud computing, I don't think a lot of folks know how often they use the cloud. You know, when you're working remotely or shopping online, streaming movies, listening to podcasts like this one, we're all using cloud computing. And we're just really excited to have really great customers like Netflix, Epic Games, Liberty Mutual, Disney, and have seen their businesses grow over the last decade, expanding and innovating on AWS cloud.
And what about AWS locally? Why Oregon?
Such a great question, and one that I'm really excited to share more about. We're so proud to be out in Eastern Oregon. We're in both Morrow and Umatilla counties. We've been constructing and operating data centers in Eastern Oregon since 2011, and it's our second largest region in the world. We've invested more than $22.9 billion in both counties and enable more than 5,900 jobs throughout the region, supporting AWS in on-site roles at our data centers. We also support local jobs, economic development growth, skills training and education, and unlocking opportunities for local businesses and suppliers. Like I said, we're very ingrained in the communities. We want to be able to support initiatives and organizations that residents really care about and benefit from. We have an AWS in Communities team and AWS Economic Development team that really lean into this with microgrants. And these microgrants basically help support small startups in those communities to make sure they hit the folks that really need it. My favorite organization that the business supports is Sweet Potatoes Closet. They are a foster care organization that helps support foster care families to ensure they have everything that they need, from the clothes on their back to groceries. And it's It holds a special place in my heart. It's a very sweet organization. But on the skills training and education side, we have a great partnership with Blue Mountain Community College where we fund a data center technician program where young adults or folks who maybe have an associate's degree and are interested in learning more about how a data center works operationally, we fund that program and have a great partnership at BMCC. And we're always really excited to share and tour that facility with folks. And also think big space. We have 4 of those throughout the 2 counties, Umatilla and Morrow, and 1 on the Confederated Tribes of the Umatilla Indian Reservation. And these think big spaces allow young adults and elementary school children to come and learn about technology and get their hands on it. We have 3D printers, we have robots. It's really exciting to see students learn how the cloud works at such a young age and really be able to leverage this technology.
That's excellent, and I love the fact that you're sourcing a lot of the talent for the data centers from the local area, including from Blue Mountain Community College. They've done incredible work over there that I've seen firsthand, both in terms of supplying folks for the data center industry as well as for UAVs and drones in the Columbia River Gorge. Awesome. Well, I was wondering if you could talk a little bit about Amazon's focus on renewable energy. Data centers definitely, require some power to make sure that they're operating efficiently. And I know that Amazon's been pretty committed to looking for renewable sources of energy and reaching net zero carbon by not too long in the future here. So, what does that look like in Oregon?
Yes, we have very ambitious goals for the globe and for Oregon for our operations here. But Amazon recently announced 2 renewable energy investments in Oregon, which was really exciting. This includes a $1.2 million donation to Grid Alternatives to fund a community solar program in Eastern Oregon in both Umatilla and Morrow counties. We also just announced Amazon's first utility scale renewable energy project within the state of Oregon. Back to this first scale utility project, we have committed to purchase 200 megawatt hours of clean energy to power Amazon's operations, including our data centers. So that energy is going right into the grid for us to be able to use, which is really exciting. Um, I also just learned that this specific project is expected to produce enough clean energy to power the equivalent of 22,000 US homes, which is really crazy.
A lot.
So yeah. um, this investment builds on AWS's 2023 announcement where we partnered with our electricity co-op, Umatilla Electric Cooperative, UEC, to create an innovative solution that safely and reliably powers our data center region with 100% renewable energy. This agreement allows us to take on the responsibility of selecting the energy supply that powers our data centers and f- pinpointing exactly which renewable resources we use to power our data source, which is really cool.
That's cool. So, in terms of energy, why is it such an important topic for AWS?
Well, you said it earlier. We are a large energy user. Data centers do use a lot of energy to power um, hospitals and everyone's streaming Netflix and Zoom and podcasts. Our whole society kind of runs on these apps and cloud. So back in 2019, Amazon co-founded and was the first signatory to the Climate Pledge, a commitment to achieve net zero carbon across its operations by 2040. We are already on our way to meet that 100% renewable energy by 2025 before our targeted 2030. But I do have exciting news that we are going to be announcing that we have reached 100% renewable, which is really exciting. And this is followed up with a study that we did to talk more about the sustainability in our data centers. But I will say, just to add on to that, because of this climate pledge, we have become the largest corporate buyer of renewable energy for the last 4 years. We purchased more than 2.8 times more clean energy through power purchase agreements than the nearest competitor. We've also enabled more than 500 renewable energy projects worldwide as of January 2024, and this represents 28 gigawatts of clean energy. There is so many opportunities in Oregon. We are focused on helping to solve the end-to-end challenge of renewable energy generation, transmission, and reliable power delivery. There is an opportunity for Oregon to enable dozens of gigawatts of renewable energy projects that are currently stuck in the pipeline. But because they're currently stuck in the pipeline, we need to ensure that there's adequate transmission to get the renewable energy to where it needs to go. On top of that, we transmission costs we know are incredibly expensive, but we are working with policymakers to ensure that they know that Amazon does pay transmission costs at rates established by utility regulators to make sure we're paying our fair share of the cost for electricity. We work closely with utilities and grid operators to plan for future growth and where we require specific infrastructure to meet our needs, such as new substations. We work to make sure that we are covering those costs as Amazon and that we are not passing it on to ratepayers, which I think is a really important distinction because as we are advocating for more transmission, a regional energy market, we do understand how costly those are, and we want to ensure that we are paying our fair share.
That's great. I'm wondering, are there certain things that you've learned during this work that have surprised you about renewable energy? I know for one, I've learned a ton just in the last month and a half working on the governor and Senator Wyden's climate tech manufacturing task force. It's a rapidly changing environment and dynamic industry, and I'm just wondering, you must have come across quite a bit. What's been the most surprising thing that kind of jumps out at you?
I learn so much about renewable energy every day. I do not come from the renewable or energy space, so it's learning something new every day. But what surprised me the most would be that each location requires a slightly different solution, which makes sense, right? Every state, every region is different. Developing a new renewable energy project requires us to think precisely about the specific challenges of that particular location and the impacts that this renewable energy project would have. In California, for example, the grid has more solar energy in the middle of the day, but it lacks solar energy in the evening, which makes sense. But that's the time when people are turning on their lights and using air conditioning. So this big jump in demand means that the grid, mostly powered by solar energy during the day, will switch to energy from natural gas plants later in the day. One way we're helping to tackle this is by pairing large-scale battery storage with our solar projects. This allows our projects to store renewable energy generated during the times of potential oversupply and use it later when the grid needs it most, enabling the use of carbon-free electricity more often during the day. I've also learned that in many places grids aren't ready for renewable energy projects to come online. I've been to many conferences, many meetings, and this seems to be a trend that everyone's really talking about. In the US, the demand for renewable energy has grown significantly, and that's critical to meeting the carbon reduction goals set by both the Biden administration, companies like Amazon, and states like Oregon, Washington, and California. But right now, the US has more energy projects in the pipeline than the grid can literally handle. More investment needs to be made in transmission and the distribution system. All the physical infrastructure that actually moves electricity from the wind farm or solar plant to where it's being used. As we look into the future with more companies like Amazon investing in the region at the same scale and level of utilities, we are committed to contributing ideas in this conversation. We're also working very closely with incentivizing, the more development, but also making sure that we're able to work with folks on the ground who live in those areas, who work with those communities to ensure that we're making sure that these renewable projects are sited appropriately and properly, so we're not impacting any high value farmland or cultural resources area.
And I'm wondering if you could spend just a little bit more time talking about, like, where do you see the biggest opportunities here in Oregon in achieving the state's clean energy goals?
I would say our biggest opportunity is the formation of a Western energy market. As we talked about earlier, Oregon's on it's on the path to 100% clean grid by 2040. And we know from several studies that achieving the last 20% of that specific mandate is nearly impossible without a larger regional footprint of diverse clean energy generators. The most cost effective and efficient way to access these diverse generators is through a fully integrated market. These incremental steps to a full regional market are already underway in the West, such as states in New Mexico and Colorado. And we have also been pleased to see Oregon utilities and our state regulatory agency, the Oregon Public Utility Commission, active in those conversations. And although utilities are looking at the day ahead market, and that is great. But while day ahead markets bring some benefits to Oregon customers, the greatest benefits will be realized with a single regional energy market. And the way I view it is, you know, Montana and Wyoming are known for their wind. And it's important that when we are unable to get a renewable energy resource such as wind, we're able to connect with Montana or Wyoming for that cleaner energy. And so it's important to have a entire Western grid that provides reliability and can ensure that all of the states in the West can meet their clean energy goals. I would also say one of my favorite policy topics to talk about is grid enhancing technologies, also known as GETs. GETs are essentially a hardware and software solution that are deployed within the existing transmission system, helping to increase the capacity, flexibility, and efficiency of the current grid, not even needing to build new transmission in certain areas. The most common GETs are dynamic line ratings, advanced power flow controls, and topology optimization. It gets a little wonky, so I won't go in the weeds, but the combinations of these devices provides near real-time data on how the grid is performing and helps reroute the power to underutilized circuits and supports change grid topologies, all of which provide grid operators and planners with the tool to effectively manage the grid. Grids could be deployed more quickly and cost effectively than traditional transmission upgrades, such as reconductoring or rebuilding lines, which means they offer tremendous potential to expedite the integration of new resources on the grid at real time. We worked with the Rocky Mountain Institute to study grid enhancing technologies in PJM's territory on the East Coast. RMIs getting interconnected in the PJM report found that the application of GETs could facilitate interconnection of 6.6 gigawatts of new solar, wind, and storage generation across the 5 states within the PJM region. The level of GETs deployment is also really good for electricity customers, as the analysis shows that GETs are significantly cheaper and yield $1 billion in production cost savings thanks to lower cost generation they help integrate and the congested relief they provide to the system. Amazon's long-term goal is to work with utilities and energy companies to make every electricity grid we operate in net zero carbon for everybody. We are committed to that vision, and we are working to enable through our renewable energy purchases and policy initiatives, such as supporting grid enhancing technology policy and Western energy market policy.
It's really great that, in particular, there's a couple of states, Colorado, New Mexico, that are already doing some of this work, and that Oregon's at the table, or is at least observing how it's going. So hopefully that continues. It'd be huge to, I think, enable more coordination across the West, given some of the shared interests. Just more broadly on climate tech, this is something that's come up recently in the Oregon Clean Tech Manufacturing Task Force as well. Definitely something that hopefully we'll see more of across state governments. I'm wondering, as we look ahead to what's next, like what should companies and just organizations in general be doing to help drive solutions to clean energy and otherwise just promote clean tech?
I think getting involved is first and foremost, letting your representatives and senators know what you support. If it's a regional energy market, is it grid enhancing technologies? And I've always found to research. I have gone down the rabbit hole on grid enhancing technologies just to learn more because it's such a really cool technology. But also supporting organizations like Technology Association of Oregon, Climate Solutions, the Oregon Environmental Council, and engage in what they're doing and go down to the Capitol, meet with folks, learn about what they're doing and how you can plug in is always great. I would also say, just commending Senator Taylor and Representative Gamba on their broad work on a regional energy market and Representative Gamba's work group on transmission, just drilling into these specific issues and learning more and getting into the weeds is always really fun for folks to do, believe it or not, especially the policy wonks like us. So I would also say, you know, we are working with folks like the Oregon Environmental Council, Renewable Northwest, on a September energy event called the Oregon Clean Grid Summit. It is on September 11th, so making this plug now. It's dates or details on the event will be forthcoming, but I will say it's just going to be a great event for people to learn more about transmission, about a Western energy market, about GETS, everything that entails a transmission system. Is going to happen at that event. And we're really excited to tee up a lot of the policies that we've been working on at the event and just getting folks ready for the 2025 session and all of the transmission work to come.
So, like, great advice for our listeners. And yeah, transmission is just one of many really important issues that we're going to need to really spend some time and resources tackling if we're going to try and address some of the larger climate related issues. So I'm excited for this event coming up in September. We'll be sure to get that out to our membership as we get more details. And I know I'll make an effort to try and attend as well as the rest of the team at TAO. I know you're busy, but I want to thank you for taking some time to join us today. And it's been fantastic hearing a little bit more about AWS and its investment here in Oregon and sort of where you see things going next with respect to our climate and energy related agenda in the state. Thank you so much.
Thank you.